Am I the asshole for telling my dad I won't sign the new trust fund proposal? I am on mobile, so please bear with me. I have changed details for privacy and if family see this. I know the title seems harsh considering it is my dad's money, but please read and reconsider. I, 23F, am my dad's eldest child. He has 3 other children ages ranging from 18-3. He has 4 children with 3 different women, the second eldest being my 100% sibling. Backstory. When my parents divorced, my father started taking interest in foreign women. I say this because he would meet them online and fly them out to our country and home. This went on for years. When he broke it off when his girlfriend from Japan and sent her home, but she tried to take him for everything since they had been together for 3 years. So he set up a trust fund, so if anything was to happen to him or if he was to get in a serious relationship, no one could take him for half of his companies, homes and money. If any changes were to be made, everyone older than 18 have to sign to agree. Now on to the story. My dad, 50M, has been with Rose, 32F, for 5 years. They have had my youngest sibling together. Since being together, my dad has been Rose's sugar daddy, expensive trips, designer clothes. He sends money for Rose's family back home to pay their rent and living costs. Now what my dad does with his money is his own business, just like mine. Last week my dad asked me to come for dinner and him and Rose asked if I would sign the new trust fund documents. Now I'm not silly. I sat there and read it all. The new document, to pretty much sum it up, says, Rose will get the houses, Rose will get 70% of each business, Rose will get all the cars and boat, Rose will get 60% of the money and the rest will be divided among the children. I told my dad this had to be a joke and no way was I signing this. Rose pushed and said this was my way of accepting her into the family. I told Rose she was already a part of the family and putting on paper what she gets if my dad dies tomorrow proves that then she is gold digging and delusional. She told me that if I didn't sign it then I would be removed. I told her that wouldn't work as my sibling wouldn't agree to that change. I left and went home, but Rose keeps texting me, my dad set this up for reasons like this. I wasn't going to be bullied. She might be manipulating my dad, but I see right through it. My dad has built these companies on his own, she did not contribute. I just want to add that I don't care what I get. This is not about money. I was raised humble and have worked hard for everything I have. I am just looking out for my dad. I'm not looking for legal advice. We do have a family lawyer who looks after this all as well. So Reddit, am I the asshole? Ha ha ha, absolutely not. Not the asshole. Put your no in writing, tell your sibling and block Rose. To accept her into the family, this is laughable. In what world would you agree to something like that? Not the asshole. I hope you have already spoken to your sibling. If this is real, not the asshole. Stick to your guns. She could get divorced from your dad and take everything if that trust and his companies are signed over. Try and speak to your dad privately. Tell him the trust fund was put in place for reasons like this. That if she were truly there for love, then she wouldn't mind the fund staying as is. Except with the inclusion of any children she shares with your dad to be added, and wouldn't be harassing you. Am I the asshole for not supporting my wife's decision? My wife is a doctor and a pretty straight arrow. There's not a lot of beating around bushes or dancing around issues with her. We have one daughter who's 17 and she's just started her senior year of high school. She's always a bit above normal or above average, however you wish to phrase it, weight-wise, but, over the course of last school year and this past summer, things have really escalated. My wife noticed, I noticed, we discussed it amongst ourselves and always left it at, she's a smart girl. Let's let her deal with it, she'll make the right call. One morning last week, my wife noticed our daughter struggling to get into her school uniform pants, proceeded to come find me and said that this was kind of it for her and that she was going to do something. She asks my daughter to weigh herself, turns out she's about 75 pounds overweight. My wife proceeds to lay out the health risks of being this overweight to our daughter, things like high cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes, etc. She goes on with saying that my daughter is going to need to diet and do some exercise. She proposed walks together as a family. This became a shouting match between them. My wife proceeded to say, "Your father and I," before I interjected with, "Your mother." My wife finishes by reiterating concerns. When it was just she and I alone as our daughter was heading out the door, my wife asked me why I'd dropped the ball in presenting a united front to our daughter. My point was that, she never really collaborated with me to begin with. She just went upstairs and asked our daughter to weigh herself. We should have decided if that was the most nuanced thing to do. Am I the asshole? You are the asshole. I could chalk this up to your wife freaking out over nothing if it were 5–10 pounds over, but if she's 75 pounds over what she should be, then yes, it's time to say something. Everyone sucks here except your daughter. How did you and your wife let this happen? 75 pounds is a massive amount of weight. Haven't you been encouraging her to eat well and be active? The issue now is that this is going to be framed as a weight loss exercise rather than simply living a healthy lifestyle. You and your wife fucked up here, I'm afraid. You are the asshole. Would it really have been so difficult to say, "Hey, honey, come here a second," and actually talk to her about your concerns with her approach? As it is, you picked the worst of both worlds. You didn't back her up, but you didn't actually do anything to defend your daughter, either. Would I be the asshole for not offering a meat option at our wedding? Me, 26F, and my fiancé, 28M, are in the very early stages of wedding planning. Both of our families have offered to chip in, but we'll be covering the bulk. We're both vegetarians and really only have dairy products very occasionally. 9/10 we choose the vegan option and mainly cook vegan for ourselves. Just when we have the same meals as our baby, 10-month-old, we all eat the same. We can be in the same room as meat cooking etc. We're not particularly preachy. We just don't want to spend money for animals to die in celebration of our wedding. Feels wrong as paying into that industry. Also looking forward to having a choice rather than the one option. My mum has already made a comment that it's not fair for us to not offer a meat option. We're of the mindset that it's literally one afternoon we're asking guests not eat meat. No one in our guest lists have any other dietary requirements we need to think about. She made the point that we'd expect a vegetarian option at someone else's wedding. So would I be the asshole for not offering a meat option? As long as the menu is palatable and recognizable for non-vegan folks. Like, don't serve tempeh. Go with pesto pasta instead. You know? Not the asshole. People are not going to die if they eat a meal without meat for one meal. There are plenty of very delicious vegetarian meals. Your mom's argument is flawed because vegetarians cannot eat meat options, while meat eaters can eat vegetarian options. I'd rather eat a meal with tasty mac and cheese, crisp green beans and freshly baked bread than a stale piece of chicken or overcooked steak. Not the asshole. I had a vegetarian wedding and my family threatened to bring meat but I held firm. At the end of the day the food was amazing and everyone had a great time. I don't understand the fuss people kick up for one bloody meal. Am I the asshole for refusing to care for my disabled sister? I, 28 Yof, have a sister, 24 Yof, who has Down syndrome. She is unable to look after herself, so my parents have been the ones to look after her. A year ago my father passed away in a car accident, so it has been my mother as her sole caretaker. My mother, 60 Yof, was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer a few months ago, so it has been very difficult for her to care for my sister. My mother has been extremely ill from the treatments and is constantly at appointments. I have been doing my best to try and support her and my sister during this difficult time. My mother recently had a discussion with me that she is no longer able to care for my sister anymore and wanted me to take on the role as her caregiver. My mother is worried my sister wouldn't cope well in a home and wants her to stay around family. I told my mother that I would not take on the role as her caregiver. The reason I refused is that I am currently working as an RN and am currently going to school to become a nurse practitioner. It has been my life dream to become a nurse practitioner someday. If I was to care for my sister I would have to give that up. I told my mom I would help in getting my sister into a home and would constantly visit her to make sure she wasn't feeling neglected. My mother told me that I'm being incredibly selfish and should be ashamed of myself. She also said that it's unfair that she would have to pay for this home as well. I offered to help pay as well. She told the rest of my family and they all have said that I'm a horrible person for not helping out. They all think I should look after her as I'm single and don't have any kids of my own. Am I really a bad person? I'm posting here in hopes of getting an unbiased opinion. Not the asshole. This is a horrible situation, but it comes down to this. You did not choose to have your sister. Your mother chose to have another child, and the fact that your sister is developmentally disabled and needs a caretaker is not on you. You do not owe her anything. More than that, if you don't want to do the job but feel like you have to, you'll be miserable and resent her, which is bad for her. You do not have the obligation to give up your entire life for this. Being a caretaker is a really time-consuming and stressful thing, and not everyone is suited for it. In your position I would do the same thing. Not the asshole. Your parents should have planned better for what would happen after their deaths. They had 24 years to do so.